Hi everyone, welcome to Whispers of the Word by Cherry.
My name is Josphine, and I have always believed in God, but for a long time, my faith was distant. I prayed sometimes, and I even read the Bible when I only remembered. I thought I could handle my problems alone, but I was wrong. Work was exhausting. Every morning, I woke up feeling like I was already behind. My boss kept adding pressure, and I could barely keep up. One day, a colleague claimed credit for a project I had spent weeks preparing. I stayed quiet. I didn't want to look petty. Outside work, I felt just as lost. My weekends were filled with branches and scrolling through social media, pretending everything was okay. But deep inside, I felt unseen. Friends only reached out when they needed something. Conversations were shallow. I often went home feeling more lonely than when I arrived. At home, the silence was louder. I lived alone, and it often felt like the walls were closing in. My family constantly reminded me that time was moving, that at my age I should have been married with kids. Their words weren't cruel, but they were heavy. I smiled through their questions, but every question dug deeper into my self-doubt. Things started falling apart all at once. First, there was the breakup, a painful one. I had given everything, believing it was leading to marriage, but out of nowhere, he sent a cold text. I think we want different things. No call, no explanation, just silence. I was shattered. I cried until my voice gave out. I questioned my worth, asking God why love always slipped through my fingers. Then my closest friend moved abroad and didn't even tell me. I found out on Instagram, watching her post selfies in another country. I felt so sad, like people left me just when I needed them the most. Work didn't offer comfort either. One morning, during a meeting, my boss harshly criticized me in front of the entire team. I stood there frozen and humiliated. I had tried so hard to please everyone, and still, it wasn't enough. At home, the family group chat was buzzing. My cousin just got engaged. Pictures flooded in, smiles, rings, dresses. I stared at my screen, wondering if anyone noticed I hadn't said a word. And then came the sickness. It wasn't serious, but it kept me home in bed for days. No one called, not even a get well soon message. The silence hurt more than the fever. I stopped answering messages. I avoided everyone. I wasn't angry. I was just tired. Tired of pretending. Tired of hoping. I didn't pray. I didn't even think about God. I told myself, maybe this is just life. Maybe I have to figure it out alone. The book of Psalms, chapter 46, verse 1 to 2 says, God is our shelter and strength, always ready to help in times of trouble. So we will not be afraid, even if the earth is shaken and the mountain fall into the ocean's depth. Weeks later, a mutual friend invited me to a quiet gathering at a small cafe. I didn't want to go, but something told me to show up. That's where I met David. He was calm, with a kind smile and peaceful eyes. We talked casually about books, faith, and how life was harder than we expected. Somehow, the conversation got deeper. I told him how lost I had been feeling. I didn't cry, but my voice cracked. I expected him to give me advice. Instead, he asked me something simple. Have you ever tried praying for clarity about your life? I didn't know how to answer. I had prayed before, but not really believing anything would change. David didn't push, he just said, God still sees you, even in this. David offered to help me reconnect with God, not in a loud or dramatic way, just gently. We started meeting once a week. We'd pray, read the Bible, talk about verses that brought peace. At first, it felt strange. I didn't know what to say when I prayed, but David reminded me that prayer wasn't about saying the perfect words. It was about being honest. So I tried. I started talking to God like a friend I hadn't seen in years. I told him about my fears, my shame, and my doubts. I wrote down my thoughts in a journal. Like the book of Matthew, chapter 11, verse 28 to 30 says, "Come to me, all of you who are tired from carrying heavy loads, and I'll give you rest. Take my yoke and put it on, and learn from me, because I am gentle and humble in spirit, and you will find rest. For the yoke I will give you is easy, and the load I'll put on you is light." The problems didn't disappear. At work, I faced pressure. One day, I made a mistake that cost the team a contract. I wanted to crumble, but I remembered to pray before I reacted. God gave me the courage to own up and apologize. And surprisingly, the boss responded with grace. At home, my family still asked about marriage. I still saw engagement posts everywhere, but now I didn't feel the ache anymore. I knew my worth wasn't tied to a ring. One of my old friends started avoiding me because I didn't join in on gossip anymore. It hurt, but I kept praying. I asked God to help me let go of people who didn't align with where He was leading me. Some days were harder than others. I still cried, I still questioned, but I didn't feel alone anymore. God's presence gave me strength I never had before. 2 years passed, and in that time, my relationship with God grew deeper. I learned to wait on Him, not just for things I wanted, but for peace. I learned that healing is slow but beautiful, and through of it all, David stayed. We grew in friendship and in faith, and eventually we fell in love. We got married, not because it was expected, but because it was right. God had taken two broken people and slowly made something beautiful. Now I look back at those dark days and I'm no longer ashamed, because even when I forgot God, He never forgot me. Maybe you are where I was, trying to fix everything alone, feeling like no one sees you, feeling tired. Let me tell you, God is not far. He's waiting for you to come close again. You don't need perfect prayers. You don't need to have your life figured out. Just start, pray, read His word. Talk to someone who can walk with you. The problems might not go away instantly, but God will give you the strength to face them. Because the book of Isaiah, chapter 40, verse 31 says, "But those who trust in the Lord for help will find their strength renewed. They will rise on wings like eagles. They will run and not get weary. They will walk and not grow weak." Thank you so much for listening and watching the Whispers of the Word by Cherry. Don't forget to subscribe, like, comment, and even share. Jesus loves you. Bye.